Sacramento Kings basketball.
He's got the bucket!
Game night is presented by Power Business Technology, your locally owned and managed Toshiba copier dealer. Contact them at 844-POWER-BZ or visit them at powercopiers.com. Here's your host, Scott Marsh, alongside the high flyer, Henry Turner.
And a very pleasant good afternoon to you. Welcome into game night right here. Sacktown Sports 1140. Scott Marsh along with the high flyer, Henry Turner. We're coming to you live from the Sacktown studios as we get you ready for the Kings and Hawks game 2 of the 4-game swing for Sacramento. It started off nice in Utah on Tuesday. The Kings beating the Jazz 113-96. That game never really close. The Kings getting off to a 34-point first quarter, never looked back in that one to improve the 2-2 overall. And for the Jazz, they're 0-4 on the season. We'll be with you until 4 o'clock today. You can join us. Give us a call. 916-339-1140. That's 916-339-1140. You can text us there as well. And, of course, Kings Live pregame will be coming up at 4. The tip tonight is 4:30 in Atlanta. All right, High Flyer, how are you doing, my friend?
Doing good, Scott.
Yeah, it's a good way to kick off the weekend. A little Kings basketball, a little back-to-back action.
That's right. I mean, it was a little cold this morning, but the sun came out. And you have a decent day, and I get to sit in here in the studio and watch some NBA basketball. Can't get any better.
Now, you put it in perspective. You know what? We're breathing, we're smiling, and we're talking NBA hoops.
Bro,
man.
we in here.
Life is good.
I'm telling you, we in here.
Life is good. And life is good right now for the Kings after starting off 0-2. They've rattled off a couple of straight, maybe their best effort of the season against the Jazz. Got off to a nice start and really never got challenged in that game.
You know, Scooter, I would have to say that I really enjoyed what the team did and how they accomplished it. Because I've been saying time and time again, I would love for this team to take care of their business, come in, get leads, and play basketball games to where your main guys don't have to play Herculean numbers. You know, when you can have all 5 of your starters play anywhere between 30 and 35 minutes, even though these guys aren't old players, except DeMar's old man River, but the rest of the guys, if they can play 30 to 35 minutes, that's great.
Yeah, no, that was great. And for the Kings, nobody played more than 34 minutes. Sabonis and DeRozan both got 34 apiece. And, you know, Sabonis, he was awesome again, 28 points, 11 rebounds. He was 13 of 18 from the field. And, you know, Utah was content to try and guard him man-to-man, and that didn't work out very well for the Jazz.
No, it didn't. And when you talk about the work that Sabonis put in, I mean, he really cut through those boys like Swiss cheese. I was like, man, he was like a man among boys. He treated Walker Kessler like table butter. I'm like, man. But, you know, I'm glad to see that, and I'm glad to see that he's jumping out to an early start. You know, not to a situation to where, oh, well, he's been playing good, but he's manhandling guys halfway through the season. No, with this basketball team, Scott, they need to set a presence, and they need to set it early.
No, they do indeed. And they definitely did set the tone, because in the preseason, again, put that in front of season.
Smack season.
But, you know, the Jazz had 12 block shots in that game. The combination of marketing and Kessler were pretty effective against Sacramento. Combined, they really didn't do anything, just 11 points between the two.
You know, people always ask the question, well, does preseason matter? No. As you see, preseason, Utah came in here and smacked us like kids.
Yeah. They
had their way. So when regular season started, it's a whole different ball game. So, you know, for the Kings to come in and do what they did in Utah, you know, I really salute every last one of them, because they did exactly what they were supposed to do.
Yeah, they did indeed. And it was just a nice overall win for Sacramento. They shot over 50% from the field. That was nice to see. They're still struggling a little bit from three-point land. We're just 8 of 31, but the offense continues to seem to get a little bit more cohesive as they continue to work DeMar into it.
Yes, they're still struggling from beyond the arc, but they had a couple of things going in this game, Scott, that really, you know, negates that. Number one is that they're getting out in transition. Steals and turnovers are really helping this basketball team out. We talk about how we want to see these guys get up and down, high octane, drive to the middle, spray out for threes. That's the recipe for Coach Mike. He wants that done all the time. And then, you know, we can talk about them utilizing the other aspect of the game. They're shooting free throws, Scott, at an 80-plus
Yes,
clip. That will help you win a lot of games that where you are tight, just one or two possessions. Free throws will get you over the hump.
And the fact is, not only are they shooting 80+% from the line, it's the amount of times they're getting to the line.
That's the thing, Scott. They are getting to the line big time. And yes, that's mainly because of one guy, DeMar DeRozan. That's part of who he is. That's in his DNA, is to work that free throw line. And he does it well. He's been very successful his whole career about going to the free throw line and scoring, but it's helping some of the other guys. They are piggybacking along and jumping right on the boat with him.
Yeah, they are indeed. And just kind of to back up on Sabonis's numbers, I mean, we're used to numbers like this from Domas, but so far averaging a little over 24 points a game, 11 rebounds, 5.5 assists. He's shooting 68% from the field. And here's the stat that's really standing out. He's 54.5% from 3-point range so far, taking nearly 3 a game.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure if you go in the locker room and you ask the coaches,
yep,
they're going to say he needs to shoot more.
Mm-hmm.
But DeMar is who he is. He's not going to change his game. He might take another one or two threes, but he gets his work down in that mid-range. That's where he feels comfortable. And most guys, once you know who you are as a basketball player, you're really not trying to go away from that. Yeah, when you get up a couple points and, you can look at the fourth quarter and say, okay, we're up 15, you might step out and knock down a couple of threes. But until then, you stay right there in your comfort zone.
That's true. But as we talked about, when Domas is willing to take that shot, even if he misses, it just opens up so much more for the Kings offensively.
It's huge. He has to take it. And we're talking Domas, not DeMar. Domas has to take that shot.
Yes.
Even more so than DeMar.
Agreed.
Because you want to pull that big guy out. And if Sabonis can just keep knocking down shots at the rate that he's knocking them down now, he doesn't need to shoot 50% from three,
nope,
but just be respected from the from the 3-point line to where they have to come above that free throw line, because that opens up everything else for the other guys.
It does indeed. And you look at the Kings offensively, as we said, they're struggling from three. They're shooting just under 35%. That's middle of the pack. In fact, 18th in the league. But to the point on free throw shooting, they're second in free throw percentage, nearly 83%, third in field goal percentage at 49%, seventh in offensive rating, ninth in points per game.
That's what we're talking about. This basketball team has to play that way, because I'll tell you what, Scott, we're not going to never be in the top at rebounding. We're not going to be never at the top at block shots. We might be up there as far as points in the paint because we get out in transition. But, to play the big man game, that's not going to be the Sacramento Kings mantra. That's not going to be our MO.
No, it definitely isn't. And how about some of the defensive numbers right now? Number 9 in opponent points per game, just over 110, ninth in defensive rating, and opponent 3-point shooting percentage is under 34%.
Now, that's where the Kings still need to pick it up, because that right there, Scott, their defensive production is what helps jumpstart that high octane offense. One has to be there. You can't have one without the other. So on ball defense, you've heard me say this from the beginning. On ball defense is at a premium, and then gang rebounding, that's small ball DNA. You have to have those two.
No doubt. Although their pace of play hasn't been overwhelming yet. Their fast break points haven't put any things off the charts yet. They only had 10 fast break points against the Jazz.
No, but as you see though, they're starting to get out into transition. Mm-hmm. Now, the reason why they don't have that many 3-point fast break points is because they're not knocking down the threes like they usually do.
True.
Now, once they start knocking down those spray threes, that's where you see the fast break points go up higher.
Yeah, agreed. All right, your takeaway from the Jazz. Obviously, this is a team that's really struggling, and we thought they were a team. They certainly have enough talent to compete, but they're just off to a terrible start so far.
They are, Scott, and I'm really wondering how long are they going to ride with that? Mm-hmm. Because they got some movable pieces.
No doubt.
I would say just their front court alone have 3 big-time movable pieces. And when you are a big man in this league, you're always coveted. So, when are they going to say, okay, this is not working, move on from marketing? They dangled him out there early on as trade bait.
True.
Walker Kessler, Any team would love to have
Great
this guy.
young second-year
Yes,
player.
would dangle him out there.
Jordan Clarkson, John Collins.
John Collins is another piece. Jordan Clarkson will be another huge piece. So when are they going to say, okay, this is not working and move on?
It'll be interesting. Will Hardy obviously has the support of management ownership right now, but the Jazz are certainly a struggling organization. The Kings taking advantage, getting a couple of wins against the Trailblazers and the Jazz. It starts to pick up again tonight as they take on Atlanta. They go to Toronto tomorrow night for that really tough back-to-back, and then, of course, are in Miami on Monday. So we'll see how that all works out. Any other takeaways before we move on from Tuesday night's game?
No, just by the way they played and got their work done, Scott. Like I said, I want this team to really start putting that into their DNA, is trying to get teams down, get teams out early. So, our guys don't play those major minutes, because if they can start playing that way and be real successful at that, that's going to set us up for what we're going to need at the end when we need to make that series push.
All right. Game night is always being brought to you by Mercedes-Benz of Stockton. Go check out their full line of luxury vehicles at mbofstockton.com. We are up and running in the chat up on YouTube. If you're not there already, just go to Sacktown Sports on YouTube. You can join us during the breaks. Good conversation there as well. You can join us in the chat room. Of course, if you want to call us, you can do so over the air, 916-339-1140. You can text us as well on that same number. It's game night right here. Sacktown Sports, 1140.
All right. We are live on YouTube. Hello, everybody. Hi, Scott. Hi, Henry.
How we doing, Kyle?
What up?
I'm having a good day so far. It's nice and early. The sun's still out. We're going to have a great day today.
Are we really? Okay.
I think we're all going to have a great day
I'm about
today.
to say, when does Kyle don't have a great day?
Yeah,
This
exactly.
guy is always upbeat. I have yet to see him walk in and be like, you know what, Kyle, what's wrong, bro? You like you down. Never.
You didn't see him the day after the Dodgers beat the Padres in Game 5. He was
No, I
kinda
didn't
down bad.
see him that
I was
day.
fine with that.
You
It
were
was
down.
whatever. I can live with that. But anyways, so we were talking about the Jazz game a little bit, and the second half, you can take away as much as you want to take away with Markkanen being out and how the Kings played. But the thing I thought was impressive in the first half too, to add on, was I think the Kings got out rebounded on the offensive glass, but I think still were like 24-12 in second chance points. So
they were indeed good stat right there.
Yeah, the Kings, the whole way just felt like it was like put back, second chance put back, second chance put back.
Points in the paint, 58-38.
Exactly.
And obviously the marketing factor changed a lot. We
Yeah,
understand
but
that.
I felt like, I think Henry brought it up even in the first half. I think it was like 16-8 in second chance points too. So yeah, that was the thing I remember, is like it was just put back after put back after put back against a lengthy team like Utah, which is good. And you talked about, like, I don't know what comes next for the Jazz, but we kind of saw the reporting come out actually yesterday that it was like the Lakers want to trade for Walker Kessler, but they don't have anything the Jazz want. The Jazz aren't really interested in the D'Angelo Russell plus picks trade package, basically. So
it wouldn't make sense for Utah at all. Why would you give up on a great young big man for, I won't say a journeyman at this point, but kind of becoming close to that in D'Angelo Russell.
Someone who's also already been traded to Utah. So yeah, I kind of get it. Utah's kind of in this weird limbo where they've got now a combination of veteran role players and young guys. And I think they're still kind of trying to figure out what direction they want to go with that. But Markkanen's going to be there for the long haul. We know that much.
No doubt. And remember last year, that was a team that, was definitely all lottery. That's what we thought they were built for. And then they started winning all these games, and like they were a playoff threat at first. And then the idea of whether they're going to break it down or not became a real question throughout the season. I don't think this year, Henry, they're going to have that problem. It doesn't feel like this is a team that's going to threaten for a playoff spot.
Right now, this minute.
It's early.
No, because we felt this way about Utah last year when they first started off. And then all of a sudden, midway through, they start playing great basketball. They start winning games.
Mm-hmm.
And, let's keep it 100. Honestly, we thought Utah pulled the plug because they were like, no, we want another high pick, because they were beating some teams convincingly.
Yeah.
And specifically with the Kings of it all, I mean, they've given the Kings their run for their money the last couple of years. You've had the Kevin Huerter game winner. You had the Fox game winner that almost turned into a Markkanen game winner, but it was after the buzzer. Even Utah teams of the past couple of years have at least been competitive. I don't think this year it's going to be like that. I think this might be the worst year of the losing for them, but they've been giving them a run for their money the last couple of years.
No, that's fair. That's totally a fair point. All right. Anything in the chat to go over?
Some people are asking you if you got a chance to see the Dodgers parade. Multiple people want to know your thoughts on the Dodgers
that.
parade.
I did see some of the Dodgers parade. High Flyer, you get SoCal. There were over 2 million people in the streets of LA today. Over 2 million people came out to root on the Dodgers today.
Well, that's like the 110 at lunchtime anyway.
The Dodgers got stuck in traffic. That was a real thing that happened today. They got stuck on the way to the parade.
I'm just saying that goes down on the 405 every day in LA.
Welcome back into Game Night, Sacktown Sports 1140. Game Night being brought to you by our good friends at Power Business Technology. Experience for yourself how the power of family can help you with all your business copier needs. Give them a call today, 1-844-POWER-BZ, or go to powercopiers.com. Game Night rolls along until 4 o'clock today. Kings Live pregame comes up, then 4:30 tip. Kings in Atlanta. They've had a couple of days off. We'll see how they respond today against a Hawks team that is 2-3. Some good conversation in the chat. I was asked in there if I got a chance to see the Dodgers parade. I saw a little bit of it as we were talking about. Henry, you played at Cal State Fullerton, so you get SoCal. You've obviously been there many, many, many times.
Yep.
Over 2 million people came out today. It did. It felt like the 405 in rush hour traffic today.
That's just LA, man. I mean, whenever one of their teams wins, of course, they show up and they show out, star-studded, all of those things. But I'll tell you what, Scott, one night I was in LA and I just had to shake my head. No joke. On the 405, it's like about 10 minutes to 11 at night.
Yep, bumper to bumper.
And it's bumper to bumper. I'm like, what? It's nighttime, people. Half of y'all need to be at home in the bed. And it was just stacked. I can't believe. I mean, we talk about how Sacramento's growing and the metropolitan areas around through here. How traffic is getting tight. But it's nothing like LA. Nothing.
No, it's nothing. And sometimes I want to complain here on a Friday afternoon, but when you go down to LA, you realize you have nothing to complain about.
I mean, when you have to leave your house 2 hours to get to job every day, and it's the same on the way back.
And you're going 22 miles.
The thing, that part.
And if you want to fly out of LAX, just forget about it.
Over.
It's done. It is done. All right, let's go back and talk about tonight. We'll have a full injury report coming up a little bit later in the show. The Kings are relatively healthy, which is fantastic for them. But the Hawks coming into this one, they're certainly banged up a little bit. They're going to be without some key pieces, notably our good friend Bogdanovich, who pulled that hammy. He's going to miss some extended time.
Bogey's going to be out for a while. That's going to really, hurt their outside three-point arsenal. But at this particular point, I'm like, okay, we'll take it.
Yeah, we'll definitely take it. That's for sure. DeAndre Hunter is going to be out. No Cody Zeller, Dyson Daniels. So this is a Hawks team that won't be at full a lineup today, and the Kings got to take advantage of that.
That's another part of where the Kings really need to get solid. Whenever they get a chance to run up on these teams that are undermanned, take advantage. Take advantage, because you're going to need to store up some of these wins, Scott, because we know the rainy day is coming. We know that. This is NBA basketball, but you want to be able to store up enough to where you can weather the storm. I know it sounds cliche, but that's exactly the way it is. You go in and you take advantage. You get some games that, some people think that you might not, should have got, but you steal those and store them up for the wintertime.
Absolutely. You got to be like a squirrel.
Got to be like the squirrel.
Got to be like the squirrel. Well, of course, the one player that the Hawks will have today is Ice Trae Young, who's off to a great start so far, averaging over 28 points, over 5 rebounds, nearly 12 dimes, 2 steals, 3 30-point games, 38-point effort in the win over the Hornets. So he's got his game going early.
Trae Young, very nice point guard, very good young player, all-star caliber type player, and he's playing well with a bunch of guys down. But my question would be for the Sacramento Kings, Scott, is I don't care how Herculean he's playing, are you going to let one guy beat you? If they walk in there and they let Trae beat them, we got a problem.
No doubt.
We definitely got a problem. So, yes, Trey might have a nice number, but you can't let the Atlanta Hawks win this game.
No, you've got to win this game for sure. And, it's interesting. Trey Young, obviously, he was involved with the Luka deal and all of that. I mean, he's had an incredible career in Atlanta. He still gets linked with that. We've moved on from that part of the discussion here in Sacramento, but, that trade, I can't say it worked out for Atlanta, but they certainly didn't get a terrible end of the deal.
No, they didn't. I mean, they got another good young piece to be the face of their franchise.
Yeah.
So either way it went, they were going to be okay. I mean, at the end of the day, no one thought Luka was going to come in and be who he is right now. We knew he was going to be a very good player, but we didn't know he was going to come in and just dominate the game the way he is. So it's always one of those situations to where it's the luck of the draw.
No doubt. The one thing that was definitely known at the time is that Trey Young could score the basketball.
Trey Young can shoot from the parking lot. We knew that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Scott, which basketball team, think about this.
Yeah.
Which basketball team is going to pass up a chance to get a Steph Curry clone? Because that's exactly what we was calling it.
You're right. And it's an imitator league too, right?
Right. So, this because, see, we didn't know Steph shot like that in college. We knew he could score, but we didn't know he was doing what he was doing now.
Sure.
So we knew Trey was shooting from the parking lot in college.
Yep.
So it's like, are you going to take a chance and pass on this guy? When you see what Steph is doing, he was a sure lock.
Yeah. No, you're right about that. You could go back and analyze that and say, sure, today Luka would have been the right pick for Atlanta, but obviously Trey Young has given them a lot too. All right, going back to the Kings, are you feeling like Mike Brown's starting to kind of find his rotation? I mean, he's got Monk off the bench. Obviously, he's going to play a lot of minutes. Keon's playing again. Trey Lyles, as he gets healthier, is playing more minutes. That feels like is going to be the core 8 for the Kings.
I think Mike is getting to the situation to where all of us were just talking about. He understands that it's basically a huge log jam at that guard position, and he has very usable pieces. So is he going to go small and be able to use his usable pieces? Or do you try to stay big and some of those guards are not going to be able to get off the floor? I'm sorry. When we watched the couple of games that Keon Ellis played, Keon Ellis needs minutes.
Yeah.
And for order that to happen, you're going to have to shift guys down. All right. That means DeMar is going to have to shift over to that 4. That means Trey Lyles is going to have to shift over to that 5. And I think Mike is trying to figure that front court out with backcourt players.
Yeah, no doubt. And we know they have a log jam in the backcourt. And right now the casualty might be Jordan McLaughlin, who did play well in the preseason. We know he's a veteran guard. He played well in Minnesota, but right now he's having a hard time finding the court.
But see, that's the thing, Scott. Like I said, if you could shift DeMar over to the 4,
sure, then you could find
that means
time.
Keon could shift to the 3.
Yeah.
You're going to have Malik Monk at the 2 and put Jordan at the 1.
That'd be an interesting lineup.
Yeah, but I'm saying, hey, I tell you
play
what,
for a few minutes, maybe
you can play that way for a few minutes as long as Trey is being able to hold it down at that 5 position.
Yeah, no doubt. What about Dougie Buckets, Doug McDermott?
Now, see, he's going to be the one that's going to be either an inheritor or a guy that's going to be out in the wind. Because if Mike Brown wants to play big, well, Dougie's going to be the one that's going to be at that 3 spot a lot. Coming in and being at the 3 and the 4. But if he wants to go small, Dougie's going to be out, and Keon Ellis and McLaughlin is going to be the ones that gets that playing time.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And we know throughout the season, it's a long year. All of these guys are going to find time at some point.
Yes, and it's really going to be a situation to where, and I hate this, Scott, I really do, to where the Kings are going to look at their matchups and decide who they want to put out there on the floor. I want this basketball team to get to the point to where they're like, this is who we put out on the floor, regardless. Exactly.
Yeah.
Regardless. Be like the Golden State was back in the day when they had Draymond at the 4 and Bogut at the 5. They were like, we don't care who we play. This is who we're throwing out there, and you're going to have to match up against us.
Yep. And as for the Jones trio, Colby, Isaac, and Mason, it might be a case of a lot of G League time trying to get them ready to see if they can find their spot.
Yeah, J3 might be down in the G League.
Mm-hmm.
You might see a lot of that down there. And, and nothing wrong with that. You got to develop talent. Those guys need to play. They need to get some reps, but it's going to be hard to get it up here in the mainstream.
There's no question about that. And I know you and I both really like the possibility of Isaac Jones, and we're just really curious about his upside.
Right.
But he's going to have to earn his stripes in Stockton.
Got to earn his stripes, and I think with the signing of McBuckets, that really kind of like shifted him a little bit more in the background.
Yeah.
Because McBuckets can play that 3-4 position. Like I said, once again, depending upon how Mike wants to do it.
Yeah.
But McBuckets probably gets the call before Jones.
Yep, no doubt. Lots of interesting decisions for Mike Brown, but I know he does like to have that core 8 or 9, and we're starting to see that now. It'll be interesting, especially on the back-to-back with travel, what kind of minutes we see today from the Kings in Atlanta, and then going through customs up in Toronto tomorrow. It's not an easy turnaround for the Kings.
I think they are set up pretty well for this guy. I know we looked at this road trip. We was kind of agonizing about, my God, you leave Atlanta, go all the way to Toronto, and then come all the way back to Miami. You would much rather like to do Miami, Atlanta, and then shoot to Toronto. But when you look at how they have to do it, if the Kings come out and take care of business tonight, to where guys only have to play 30 minutes a night. Now, going all the way to Toronto, going through customs, all that, isn't that bad, because guys get a chance to rest.
Yep.
The Kings need to come out and take care of business just for that aspect alone.
No doubt. All right. When we come back, we're going to go around the league. We'll check out all the league news. We'll get you caught up on the games going on in the association as well. This is Game Night right here. Sacktown Sports, 1140.
All right. We are live on YouTube. You guys were talking about the Hawks and the decision to draft Trae Young over Luka Doncic, and how, back then it's a copycat league and everyone wants to try and find someone who plays like Steph Curry. The other thing that I remembered while you guys were talking about that is the guy who used to run the Atlanta Hawks. I believe his name was Travis Schlenke.
Going back.
Yeah, so when they were getting ready to draft him, he was Bob Myers' lead assistant in Golden State. So he was already coming from the Warriors organization.
There's your Steph connection.
To Atlanta. And his vision was Trae, because it was his first 2 draft picks. Trae Young is my Steph Curry. Kevin Huerter is my Klay Thompson. And that was the vision that they had, was those 2 as the foundation in the backcourt. And then, they went on the run to the Eastern Conference Finals, and it was, relatively successful. But the reason why they ended up pivoting was he was getting ready to lose his job, and they needed a quick upgrade. And so they traded probably too many draft picks for DeJounte Murray. And that's how Kevin ended up in Sacramento, was just because they had to break up the vision that he had for Trae Young kind of being his Steph Curry and Kevin Huerter being his Klay Thompson. It's kind of interesting how that all worked out, leading to Kevin now being in Sacramento.
Very fascinating. Yeah. What do you think? I mean, obviously anybody who could go back would have taken Luka number 1 in that draft.
Yeah, right now, knowing what we know right now. But I remember that draft specifically, Scott, because it was so much hype on Trae, bro, for what he was doing in college. Everybody was like, if you don't take this kid, right now, you're losing. This is a franchise-changing young man that can come and change anybody's franchise, because Steph was so hot. And he mirrored Steph big time. So, you couldn't really lose as far as taking him.
And I'll say, I'm looking at the 2018 draft here. There's been 5 players in that draft class who have made all-star teams, and you can't go wrong with any of them. Luka Doncic, Trae Young, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who was picked 11, and Jalen Brunson later on in the draft went to Dallas. I think he was in the mid-20s somewhere. But that's 4 really good guards, and you couldn't have gone wrong with any of those guys. I don't think maybe Dallas, because they don't have Brunson anymore, but I think all those teams are saying we could have ended up with any one of those guys and been fine.
No doubt. I mean, DeAndre Ayton, who's been a very serviceable center, obviously. We'll skip the 2 pick for the moment.
Why? What happened?
Luka, trading. That was the thing, right? Atlanta traded to move away.
And I think all they got back was a first-round pick.
It wasn't a lot.
I think it became Cam Reddish, who had some good years for the Hawks, but not a great player.
And, you know, and let's just keep it real right here.
Yep.
Knowing what we know right now, who would you take, Trey or Brunson?
You might want Brunson.
Hey, that's what I'm saying.
Right now, I might take Brunson.
That's what I'm saying.
But if you asked me that 2 years ago, I would have said Trey.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
How great was this draft, though? I mean, to your point, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander goes 11. Michael Porter Jr. goes 14 in that draft.
I think Mikal Bridges was in there somewhere.
Dante DiVincenzo was a mid-range first pick. Grayson Allen was
Our
having
guy,
a really nice
Herter.
career. Anthony Simons, who could light it up in Portland.
I think Grayson Allen's in there too. Yeah,
Grayson Allen was 21 by Utah.
Yeah, exactly. So you got NBA players up and down that draft.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just, I think Atlanta turned out okay. If you were to redraft it today, you would probably go Luka, Shea, Brunson, and then Trae Young, maybe Jaren Jackson Jr. also. But if you end up with an all-star out of the draft, I think you did pretty okay for yourselves.
No doubt. It was a heck of a draft. No doubt about it.
Oh, yeah. I think they're just A-okay here. We're coming back in just a few seconds.
Welcome back into Game Night right here, Sacktown Sports 1140. Some good conversation on that 2018 draft. And by Flyers, we were rounding it out just kind of in the break in our chat. You go through some of the names. I mean, DeAndre Ayton, Luka, Jaren Jackson Jr., Trae Young, Colin Sexton's having a nice career. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander with 11, Michael Porter Jr.
That was a nice draft class.
It was a nice draft class.
I mean, you didn't get too many busters in that draft class.
No, unfortunately, there were a couple busts in that draft.
I don't even want to talk about that.
I understand. We're moving right on from that. All right, let's get around the league. Again, the Embiid drama continues in Philly. He's not going to play versus the Grizzlies. The saga continues. The Sixers were fined $100,000. He's clearly not 100% healthy. I don't know what's going on there.
What do you do with that, Scott? When you have, we just got through talking about great players that have come into this league. And Joel Embiid is definitely one of the greats right now.
Yep.
One of the greats that have come into this league, and he's never really fully healthy, but you need him out there to win games.
Yep.
So do you take the fines, take the hit, take all the scrutiny that come with that and say this guy isn't playing? Or do you crumble to the pressure and say, okay, we got to put him out there?
Yeah. No, it's interesting because if you think back last year, you know, he was having the knee situation and people were questioning him about coming back. He came back early and got a lot more hurt.
See, that's the thing too.
I know it.
You know, and a lot of NBA players who have done that have really, because, you know, back in the day, you know, when the dinosaurs played, when I played, it was more so a thing where it's just, Scott, if it wasn't bleeding and it wasn't hacksawed off, you tied your shoes up tight and you went back out there and you played. You know, when I first came in the league, I seen guys taking shots in the rear end just to go out there and be able to play.
Yep.
You know, that's what we did. Yep. But in today's game, it's a whole different situation. Guys aren't really willing to go out there and really injure themselves more, trying to just help out the face of the franchise. They're like, you know, we understand the franchise is important, but my health and my well-being comes before that.
No doubt. And I think, again, if the Olympics weren't there and the fact he played in the Olympics, that kind of adds a little more kind of question to it.
That hurts a lot, yes.
You know, but the good news for the Celtics, at least, even though he hasn't played, he was a full participant in practice on Friday. Let's keep in mind the Sixers have been without Paul George, too. He hasn't played. So, I mean, it's been a double nightmare for them.
I know the brass at Philly is like, man, our 1 and 2 are broke. You know, how do you expect me to go out and really try to perform when Batman and Robin is off? You know, I'm sorry, the Joker's going to have his way.
Exactly.
No pun intended. Denver.
No doubt. Injuries has been the theme early in the year, and you hate to talk about it. Dominated early in the season, but the Pelicans, you know, they already had DeJounte Murray, broken hand. Now CJ McCollum's going to miss 2 to 3 weeks. Herb Jones is out 2 to 4 weeks. So
let's catch him now.
Yeah, McCollum a right adductor strain. Jones sustained a right shoulder strain and rotator cuff tear.
And Scott, sometimes things like that can derail your whole season. When you have players of such magnitude to where they go down big time like that, I mean, that hurts you. And sometimes, the team struggles so mightily, you can't come back from that.
No doubt. And you hate to hear this one, too, because Paolo just went for a 50 the other night.
Put spec on it.
I did the best I could.
You did.
Okay.
You did.
The best I could. So he's out for several weeks with a torn right oblique.
Ooh.
An injury that happened in Chicago on Wednesday night. So
that's tough.
That's really tough because he's one of the rising stars in this league.
Yes. He's one of the very young talents that has come into this league and really proven that, he's all what he's cracked up to be. Yeah. Sorry to see that happen for him.
It's interesting with baseball just finishing. There was a slew of pitching injuries in Major League Baseball this year. And it was the talk about pitchers having to just throw so hard that they were literally throwing out their arms. NBA, is it just random we're seeing all of these injuries, or do you think there is something here with today's athlete and everything going on and their workouts and just their size, their strength, everything else?
I think it's random because you can take just one player out the NBA and you would say that, okay, he's played more minutes probably than anybody else in the league. You could take LeBron James. We know he's a freak of nature, but he isn't a spring chicken. And we talk about this. Father Time will not be defeated, but this dude takes care of his body. You really don't see him going down for big lump sums of times for an injury. I think it's more so of that. Guys, you really have to take care of your body and know your body and get your body prepared. Summertime really isn't time to be off. Summertime is a time to prepare for the next season.
And finally, Lauri Markkanen, who we know didn't play in the second half against the Kings on Tuesday. He didn't play last night with back spasms, too. Another one of the league stars. So it's unfortunate we're not even 10 games into the season, and we're having a lot of big-time stars affected here.
Yes, we are, but we talk about for the Sacramento Kings, that seems to be pretty much healthy.
Start knocking.
Take advantage. Yes. Exactly. Take advantage of every team that you can run up on that don't have their full roster.
And, of course, it was 2 years ago where the Kings were the healthiest team in the league, right? And that was huge.
And you know what? And they did some Herculean things, too, because other teams and other players went down, and no matter, what type of fashion it happened, it did. And the Kings took advantage, and they was able to squeeze into that third position.
They were indeed. All right, let's look back last night at the games, and we'll give you the schedule for today. The Grizz beat the Bucks last night, 122-99. Ja, a triple-double, 26 points, 14 assists, 10 rebounds. Giannis in the loss, 37-11. The Grizz are 3-3. The Bucks are 1-4.
That's a problem right there. When you bet the house, the farm, and all the land that is sitting on.
Yep.
To bring a guy like Dame Lillard in, and you move out a really corner piece, and things don't work the way you think they should. Because right now, let's say, for example, if they didn't bring Dame and they kept everybody that they moved out to get Dame, that's probably still a good basketball team. Mm-hmm. And you might be playing a better brand of basketball. But you made the leap probably because your number one superstar guy said make the leap. Yeah. And this is funny, Scott. Your number one superstar said make the leap. We're going to make this deal because he's going to be the guy that's going to push us to the next level. Yep. And you made the deal. Yep. The deal isn't working. And now that superstar guy that you got, what is he talking about? Well, I might have to move on.
Portland repeat.
Bro. It was because of you. We made these decisions.
And let me ask you this question. It may be a stupid question, but I'm just going to throw it out there anyways. Like, if you were trading for one guy between Drew Holiday or just Damian Lillard straight up, who would you trade for if you had access to either one of those guys?
Well, Scott, if it's me, I really have to see what I have at my disposal.
Okay.
But if we just say just right now, 1-to-1, I still would go with Dame. Because you know what? I'm sorry. Offense beats defense any day in the NBA. when you got a guy that can go out there and get you 25, 30 points a night, you don't pass on that saying, yeah, well, I want a total player that's going to give me 12 points, some rebounds, some tough defense. I like Drew. I really think he's one of the most underrated guards in this league. But when you look at what you have to start off with as far as star power, Damian Lillard's number is a little bit higher.
Oh, there's no question about that. All right. The Suns got a win against the Clippers last night. They're off to a 4-1 start. Booker had 40 in the win. Harden had a triple-double in the loss.
Harden?
Yeah, 25, 13, and 10.
You know what?
How about this? The Clippers are 0-3 at home in that new, brand new, beautiful Intuit Dome. They're 0-for.
Scooter, they really tainting it before we get a chance to get down there and see it. But that's going to be a real big question. How long is James Harden going to be in tuned?
Yes. No pun intended.
Yeah. He's playing very well right now. And I think it's early on, but how long is he going to be able to pull this off? And then you're going to have to really think about this too. Okay. If James Harden is pulling this off, he's playing this well, you might not want to try to recreate that big three again. You might just want to get some real good complementary players around him because you're going to get the best James Harden, but you got to get other guys that's going to be complementary to him.
Yep, you do indeed. All right, today's games, the Celtics are in Charlotte to take on the Hornets. The C's are 4-1. Magic and Cavs. How about Cleveland? Start off 5-0.
Cleveland is another team that I think is very well constructed. You got Darius Garland at the point guard. You have Mitchell at the 2. Mitchell, to me, man, is Dwayne Wade 2.0. They play the exact same way. And then you got a lot of complementary players. You got a rim protector. You got defense. They're constructed to win.
They definitely are, and they're off to a really, really good start right now. All right, Knicks and Pistons. You have the Bulls and the Nets. The Lakers are up in Toronto tonight, so Toronto has that rare home-and-home back-to-back.
That's nice.
Yeah, but at least they got to take on AD and LeBron tonight. You got the Pacers and the Pelicans. We talked about all their injuries, and then the Nuggets and the T-Wolves matchup of the Western Conference Finals from a year ago. All right, that's a look around the league. When we come back, we'll look more in detail, Kings and Hawks. Sacramento looking to go 2-0 on this road trip. Game night is always brought to you by the Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Sacramento. If you have a heart of service, you want to do something good in our community, there's not many things you can do more than help a kid who could use an outside volunteer mentor. It's the Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Sacramento. Hope you consider donating your time or money towards this tremendous Sacramento organization. More of Game Night right here, Sacktown Sports 1140.
All right. We are live on YouTube. That was a fun around the NBA conversation. I don't really understand the whole Bucks thing right now, like you guys were talking about. I don't really get the Giannis is playing well. The team is 0-4, and I saw today they're already taking betting odds on who the next coach is going to be if they fire Doc Rivers. So
they can't fire Doc Rivers this year, can they?
Yeah.
They can?
Yep.
Wow.
If the locker room will tell you before anyone else knows. That's what happened with Griffin.
When they put Darvin Ham in charge, what would they do?
They might. You know what the crazy thing is that Doc Rivers really isn't held very high as a coach right about now in the league.
Yeah.
Looking at his track record, because people saying, yeah, I mean, even with the championship in Boston, people are looking at Doc Rivers saying, you know what, Doc really ain't done nothing. Yeah. He should have had a more glorified resume just with Lob City alone.
Yeah.
He's had some very, very good teams that underachieved.
Yeah, they couldn't get over Golden State.
Right, that underachieved. Yeah. So a lot of people really ain't that high on Doc right about now.
Yeah, and it was so weird how they hired him mid-season last year. I mean, that kind of just left a bad taste at the way they did it.
The way they did it, they had Adrian Griffin and all of a sudden just moved away from him to bring Doc in like Doc was going to be the savior.
Right.
And now it's like, okay, well, Doc is just Doc. He's showing you who he is.
Yep.
And he still might not be the guy that's going to be able to turn this team around.
I think the problem is just how do you fix it at this point? I think it's pretty much dead to rights unless they can turn this thing around because they've gone all in on these 2 seasons, and they do not have another pivot. They do not have draft picks. They do not have financial flexibility. They have the oldest roster in the NBA. There's not really a pivot after this. This is the group they got, and I don't really know how they fix it. That's why I'm so confused by just what is happening.
You know, I think losing those 2, they really didn't understand how much of the glue with Lopez and Drew.
Yep, agreed. And like, I didn't like when they fired Budenholzer, just going back that far, right? I mean, they got to the NBA finals with the guy, and like, I understand it's Giannis's team. If he wants his brother on the team, his brother's on the team. If he doesn't want Budenholzer as his coach, he's not going to be the coach. But it feels like they've just given up too much, and now they're just kind of a mess.
Like I said, they didn't take that. That's 3 right there, Scott. They really didn't understand what Budenholzer was doing with that basketball team. They really didn't understand how much Drew and Lopez played a solid effect that kept that team moving. So now when you take those 3 away, really the people that you brought, they can't fill their shoes.
Yeah.
They really can't.
No, you're right. All right, what do we got going on in the chat, Kyle?
Some people were responding to your Damian Lillard versus Drew Holiday question.
Yep.
DeRozan obviously goes back to Toronto tomorrow.
Yes, that's true. We should touch on that.
Yeah. I also, we have game night tomorrow. Well,
sure, tomorrow.
Sort of.
Yes.
But anyways, I know you guys will talk about the Trae Youngs.
We have Kings Live pregame tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. We will not have game night tomorrow. We've got UC Davis football.
You guys will talk on the Trae Youngs and the Jalen Johnsons of it all. Just one other thing. I was working with Alan and Chris the other day, and they brought up the fact that no rookie in the NBA this year is averaging more than 10 points a game right now, which includes the Hawks, who got number 1 pick in the draft, Reese Sachet. So I'm curious to see him play for the first time.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Okay, we're coming back, and yes, no game night tomorrow. UC Davis football up till 4:00, and then Kings Live pregame.
Okay. Yes.
Yep.
That's the game plan.
Welcome back into game night. Final segment here. Scott Marshall on with the high flyer Henry Turner. Kings have flown to Atlanta. They're ready to take on the Hawks. It's time to get you to the Gingery and Hammer injury report for tonight's contest. As we mentioned for the Kings, this is a great start to the year. They've got everybody back. You know, Herter was hurt to start the preseason. Lyles didn't play any of the preseason, but they're both back. They're both playing well. And the Kings are fully healthy. You love an injury report where there's nothing to report. As for the Hawks, it's a much, much different story right now. Atlanta missing several players. We talked about Bogey Bogdanovic, the hamstring, and it's too bad. You know, he's had the knee injury, he's had the hammy. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy in Atlanta since leaving Sacramento. Dyson Daniels is out with the hip flexor. DeAndre Hunter out with his knee. Cody Zeller not with the team. So they're going to be undermanned tonight, as we talked about earlier. The Kings need to take advantage of this one.
Stuff happens, Scott. No one feels sorry for you. This is the NBA. Sacramento Kings, go in, take advantage, do what you need to do, get some rest, because you got to go over the border tomorrow.
You do. Yeah, absolutely. And the thing that you know, the second I have a back-to-back is a lot easier if you won the first one.
No doubt. And, you know, with the Kings playing these last 2 games the way they did, let's get this third one in that exact same fashion and keep it rolling.
Yeah, let's definitely keep it rolling. Obviously, you look at matchups. Trae Young's the guy you can't let shoot from 40 feet and in. So defensively, it seems like De'Aaron Fox's has always been pretty good matchup for him. He likes to take the ownership on this one.
Yeah, you know, D Fox will probably get the call, but you know, the Kings got a lot of people that they can, you know, throw out there on him.
They do. That's true. It'll be by committee, and you're going to see a lot of Keon on him as well.
Right, and you know, Scott, let's put this out there. I have so much confidence in this young man because he showed us that not only can he defend, but his basketball IQ is very high.
Yep.
He understands the whole tutorial about running this basketball team, getting the right guys the ball at the right time. I would just hope that he would look for his offense just a little bit more. If he was a guy that you knew that when he came in with his minutes, he's going to give you anywhere between 8 to 10 points a night, man, he will be valuable.
No doubt. That's a great point. You know, we were talking in the chat on YouTube during the break about just Milwaukee and what they're doing and coaching. And obviously we Doc Rivers there, but they blew out a couple others prior. Atlanta's kind of been in this situation too. They bring in Quinn Snyder, Nate McMillan, who is a really good NBA coach.
Did a very good job with that team.
Good job. A lot of people were not buying in when he was let go there. What are the Hawks doing right now? I'm not sure I understand their overall strategy at the moment.
Scott, it's tough when you know, just like Milwaukee, Budenholzer had been everything for Milwaukee and had success.
Yep.
So same thing with Atlanta. Nate McMillan comes in and takes that team and they're having success. They're winning basketball games, but for some reason, the organization is like, okay, we can do better. Okay, and not saying that they can't.
Right.
But what you bring in doesn't do better.
Yep.
So now where you're at, now you're stuck. So that's one of the situations to where you just don't want to move Snyder out because you just brought him in.
Exactly. I mean, once you make that big commitment,
you got to stick. At least with the coach, you got to stick to it.
How many contracts can you buy out?
Unless you're willing to just dole it out. But at this particular point, and head coaches aren't making pennies nowadays. These guys are making $5 to $6 to $7 to $8 million a year.
Exactly. It's not chump change. You look at the Hawks starting lineup with all these injuries. It's David Roddy, Jalen Johnson, Clint Capella, who I like him. He's a double-double machine too. And then you've got the rookie Zachary Ricochet. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. The Frenchman. It's amazing. First of all, how good France has become in basketball with Wemby, and you look at Ricochet here, who obviously is high pick, and but right now that roster does not feel like a playoff caliber roster as it stands right now.
At all. And I won't feel bad at all if the Kings walk in there and look at this roster like it's not a playoff roster. But I will be disappointed if they don't play.
Yep.
Like this team is not a playoff roster. There's nothing wrong with looking at this team and say, okay, yeah, they are undermanned, which is true. Which is true. You're not looking at the guy that you would usually look at when you're going to play against Atlanta. But you have to respect it and come in and do your job.
For sure. And let's hope they got a lot of rest in Atlanta and are ready to go today.
I would hope so. Let's hope so.
All right. Second game of the 4-game road trip. Tonight it's Atlanta, tomorrow Toronto, Monday Miami before they come back home. They'll play the Raptors again. Interesting. They'll be done with Toronto by next week as the Raptors come here on Wednesday night. That's going to do it for game night. High Flyer, always great to work with you. Have a great call tonight.
Thank you.
All right. Jason Ross comes in, sits in this seat. Kings Live pregame at 4:00. They'll take you until 4:30 to G-Man with the call tonight. 7:30 tip in Atlanta. Kings and Hawks. Sacramento looking for 3 in a row. They're looking for 2 straight on the road trip. And as Henry always says, if you can go 500 on the road, you're doing all right. The Kings have a chance to do that on the first half of this trip with a win tonight. Again, can they shut down Trae Young? Can they keep him in check? Trae has been off to a terrific